G'day guys, well I've been bitten by this slope soaring bug, so I thought I'd get something a bit tougher, something that's going to take some of the rough landings on the top or the back of the slope, and I've picked up the Phoenix 1600. This is like my ASW 28 in as much as it has the plastic blow molded fuse. Good size wing, 1600, should be good for a number of different wind conditions. I picked up this one off Hobbyking out of the Australian stock. It was only 95 Australian dollars. So I think that's pretty good value. Should be plug and fly. 2-cell motor. Let's have a look at it. So I've laid out all the parts. Good thing with the Phoenix here is that even though the flaps are optional, all of the hardware is included. So you do need to have your own servo for the flaps. The aileron servos are pre-fitted. There's a nice reinforcement through there. I would need to cut out and relief the edge there to include the a flap and add a servo, which I will do. It's a really nice feeling foam. Some nice plastic parts to attach. Wing joiner. There's an optional nose cone. Folding prop. This is incidentally the same folding prop that comes with the ASW as well, same dimensions. All of the screws and control horns in their separate bags. I will be mounting up the V8 FR2 8-channel, so I can have everything on separate channels and do a full set of mixes. The first job is to attach each of the horns to the control surfaces, so the elevator, the rudder, and the aileron and flaps on each of the wings. And I thought I'd start with the tail. Noticing that the servos in the fuselage are different size. So there is a smaller one, which I'm assuming is for the rudder, and a larger one, which I'll assume, or I'm going to use as the elevator. And just double checking the movement there, thinking that one would run down each side. They actually do cross. So I've got to make sure that I put the horn for the elevator on this side and then the horn for the rudder on the other side. So before hooking up any of the surfaces, I'm just going to work the hinge just to give it a little bit of relief. They are fairly firm out of the mold. All of the screws in the bag for the control horns are the same size. And this is similar to the ASW, is each of the pads where you attach the control horns on each of the surfaces, they've cut them or molded them to the same thickness, so you don't have to search around bags and bags to get the right size screws, which is makes for a very quick build. Yeah, the hinges really are very nice. I think in a lot of the foam these days, sort of you get a hit or miss, but this is quite a good. To utilise the flaps, there's two sections that'll need to be cut. We need to cut in the end, and also there's a triangular piece of foam here that will need to follow the angle down in the back and down the side. I've got a whole set of the Tower Pro MG90S Metal Gear servos, so I'm going to actually add those, swap them all out for the Metal Gears. Otherwise, a nice tight fit. Same for the flap servo. Make sure we keep in mind that the flap servo actually on one wing will go the opposite way, so we don't have to reverse anything. But that is the way that's cut. Can just double that back. I'm going to cut a little relief in the foam there for that to sit, so we don't get any pinched wires. Tape all of that down. Just one little spot of glue just to hold that in place. So the tail section gets attached with plastic pieces, and there is a slight curve to make sure that that lines up. Tail goes on top, which also has a corresponding plastic piece. And then for the vertical stab, all pushes down. Pretty neat. And into the bottom, 2 screws to hold it together. The screws with a washer head. And there's a part that fits down underneath, and the rest slides in. So having a look at connecting a few of these things up, and I'm looking here, there's a reinforcement that's screwed in under the wing. It just seems to be fouling a little bit on that servo at the full rate. If anything sort of catches there, just to be a bit concerned that it'll lock up. So I might pull that out and just give it thin it out in that section to give it a bit more space. Pulled out the reinforcement from underneath out through the front of the fuselage. I'm just going to use a flat file just to flatten down this section in the middle. I've taken the insides and just going to slot that back in. So the next section is to put the spar into the square section here, although that needs just to leave it open just a little bit with the screwdriver, just to fit that in. Now it's a snug fit. And the other side. Which needs to be opened a little as well. So the wing joiner goes on top and gets screwed through from underneath. Fits in snug. I guess wing joiner on top. And then the Longer screws will go straight through and into the fuselage. So I'm just wrapping everything up now. So, servos are in, taped down. Everything is plugged into its own separate channel on the V8 FR2. Gives me lots of options for mixing, but just to start with, I've put the flaps on the slider and regular controls either on elevator, throttle and rudder. Just working out a CG and should be ready to go.